اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Inshallah, we'll start Surah Yasin, page 440. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ياسين والقرآن الحكيم إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم تنزيل العزيز الرحيم لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباؤهم فهم غافلون. لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون. إنا جعلنا في أعناقهم أغلالا فهي إلى الأذقان فهم مقمحون. وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون. وسواء عليهم أنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون. إنما تنذر من اتبع الذكر وخشي الرحمن بالغيب فبشره بمغفرة وأجر كريم. إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين. واضرب لهم مثلا أصحاب القرية إذ جاءها المرسلون إذ أرسلنا إليهم اثنين فكذبوهما فعززنا بثالث فقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون. قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء إن أنتم إلا تكذبون. قالوا ربنا يعلم إنا إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين. قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم وليمسنكم منا عذاب أليم. قالوا طائركم معكم أن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون. وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون. وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون. أتخذ من دوني آلهة إن يردني الرحمن بضر لا تغن عني شفاعتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون. إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين. إني آمنت بربكم فاسمعون. قيل ادخل الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين. وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعده من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم خامدون يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون ألم يروا كم أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون أنهم إليهم لا يرجعون وإن كل لما جميع لدينا محضرون وآية لهم الأرض الميتة أحييناها وأخرجنا منها حبا فمنه يأكلون وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وأعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمره وما عملته أيديهم فلا يشكرون سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون وآية لهم الليل نسلخ منه النهار فإذا هم مظلمون والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى عاد كالعرجون القديم لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون وآية لهم أنا حملنا ذريتهم في الفلك المشحون وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون وإن نشأ نغرقهم فلا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا ومتاعا إلى حين وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون وما تأتيهم من آية من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين وإذا قيل لهم أنفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا ونطعم من لو يشاء الله أطعمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يخصمون فلا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون ونفخ في الصور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قولا من رب رحيم وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أعهد إليكم يا بني آدم ألا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا فلم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لطمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون ومن نعمره ننكسه في الخلق أفلا يعقلون وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وذللنا لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم يرى الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحيي الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون صدق الله العلي العظيم.
Assalamu alaikum, dear brothers and sisters. My name is Ali Mustafa, and I just have a quick 5 to 7 minute presentation to give to you guys about the Zahra Trust. It's just an educational presentation. In this month of Ramadan, there's so many beautiful causes to give to. So it's just to educate about, our organization, the work that we do, and stuff like that. And without further ado, Bismillah. So let me pull something up. So a little bit about who we are. The Zahra Trust is a global charity, and our vision is to make every person self-sufficient and not in need of financial aid. How we do that, I'll be going over that in the next few slides, inshallah. And our team operates from 3 main offices, the UK, the US, and Canada. We're a registered 501c nonprofit. We have Khums Ijaza from all the main maraja as well. And we provide critical support to vulnerable families and individuals from marginalized communities. A lot of the times our very own Shia. On the next slide, you can see some of the countries that we operate in. So it's all over the place, really, throughout Africa, the Middle East, and South Asia. Countries including Tanzania, Kenya, India, Pakistan, Iraq, Yemen, etc. And the next few slides, I'll just be touching on some of the projects that we do. So our work could be split into 3 main categories. So the first one you see over here, which is immediate help / emergency relief. So alhamdulillah, we're one of the first organizations on the ground whenever there's a humanitarian crisis or natural disaster. So for example, when the earthquakes happened in Turkey 2 years ago, we were one of the first on the ground. When the floods happened in Pakistan, we were one of the first organizations on the ground. When the recent crisis unfolded in Gaza and Lebanon, we were one of the first organizations able to get in through the UN. So alhamdulillah, that's one of the really cool things that we're able to do. The second category over there, short-term aid, that's refers to our food aid, water aid, educational projects, stuff like that. And lastly, this third category is kind of what sets us apart from other charities, which is our long-term aid / sustainable impact. And that's where we go beyond. That's where we go beyond just giving somebody food or water one time. That's kind of what sets us apart. We're committed to delivering a long-lasting impact to our beneficiaries far beyond simple handouts and meeting their physical needs. And we do this by catering to their mental health and kind of breaking the cycle of poverty and making sure that they're no longer in need of charity ongoing. Our goal is to support communities by allowing them to live in dignity, achieve normalcy, and have self-sufficiency. One of the projects that we do this through is through the artisanal handcraft projects in Najaf. So in Iraq, there's no shortage of widows, unfortunately, due to the recent war that happened a few years ago, around a decade ago, that left a lot of widows. And what we do for them is not only are they under our care and we take care of them, providing shelter and basic needs like that, but we actually host these classes for them where we teach them skills such as sewing, making crafts. And what that does is that actually enables them to sell them and make a living for their own selves, so they're no longer in need of charity. So that's one of the cool ways, that's one of the cool projects that we have, and that's kind of how we break the cycle of poverty. Another cool thing we do is in Afghanistan, we have various schools for Shia students, which, as you guys know, who's in charge of the government in Afghanistan, it's very holding on to your Shia identity is very hard. So it's very cool that we're able to host these schools and host these programs to strengthen the identity of Shia students. And additionally, in Najaf, we also host a buluk ceremony as well for the young girls. So this is kind of how we go beyond just physical needs. We cater to the mental health and the upbringing of the people under our care. In Pakistan, one of the cool projects that we do is we have eye surgery camps and medical camps in the summer where lesser fortunate people that could not afford to, we provide them eye surgery. And then last few projects I'll go over briefly. The Najaf International Book Fair. So this year during spring break, what we did actually is the kids under our care in our system, while they were on spring break, we actually took them out on a field trip. So we paid for their lunch. We took them to the Najaf International Book Fair, and they were actually able to, pick out books of their own and take them home. So a lot of these things I'm saying for you guys, the book fair, the buluk ceremonies, these sound like a lot normal for people living in the West. But the reality is, for these kids in the East, they don't have parents. They're in lesser fortunate communities. Their basic needs are not being met. Providing these things that might seem normal to us goes a long way for them, really, and it makes them ensure that they are still close to their religion by the time they're outside of our care. Same thing we did for the spring break camp in Karbala. We brought the kids together and we taught them about the religion. We had wudu workshops, salah workshops, stuff like that. And then I saved the best one for last. The rickshaw project is my personal favorite. So it's a really cool project we have in Iraq, where what we do is that we actually, the people under our care who have been in our system for a long time, what we do is we provide them with a rickshaw/a tuk-tuk. With your donations, we give them a tuk-tuk, and they actually sign a contract with us. And over time, what happens is that they end up paying it off, and it becomes theirs to keep. And with this rickshaw, they're able to, make an earnest living for themselves. And that's kind of how we're breaking the cycle of poverty, making sure that they're no longer in need of handouts. So on the next slide, you can see a case study. So for example, one of the people under our care, Najaf, let's just call him Ali. So Ali came to us, and he was struggling to support his wife and 2 daughters because of a foot injury in his legs. He was unable to, work. But through the rickshaw program, he was accepted into it, and he was able to, eventually pay off a rickshaw, and now he uses it for water deliveries to make an earnest living. So for all the brothers in the room, you know how important it is to the pride that you have whenever you're able to bring money home and support your family. And alhamdulillah, that's one of the ways that we're able to do that and empower people to do so. This Ramadan, our goal is to feed 1 million people. It's not last year we fed 800,000 people, so it's definitely doable. One meal is just $1.20. I'm going to be having a table outside where you guys can come and ask questions about this initiative or any other work that I spoke about. And that's really all I have for you guys today. I would like to thank the Shijla community for welcoming us, and Jamil Bhai for helping me get set up. And sallu ala Muhammad wa alihi Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على خير خلقه وخاتم أنبيائه ورسله سيدنا وشفيعنا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المنتجبين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي أما بعد فقد قال سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه المجيد وهو أصدق القائلين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله ولتنظر نفس ما قدمت لغد واتقوا الله إن الله خبير بما تعملون صلوات. Well, congratulations to, I guess, all of us. We are almost towards the midpoint of this noble month of Ramadan, the month of worship, reflection, introspection, and the month of muhasaba or self-evaluation, self-interrogation and giving ourselves a report card. It is also a month in which we try to enhance our relationship with our family, with our friends, with our relatives. But the most important aspect and dimension of the month of fasting is to purify our morals and ethics and spirituality. How can we enhance our spiritual existence? In the other 11 months, it is very common for us to accumulate many of the spiritual diseases. It's very normal. We are human beings. And this is a time for us to cleanse some of the spiritual diseases, to purge them. What kind of diseases am I talking about? For example, things like extravagance, wastefulness, arrogance, jealousy, consumerism, right? You want the latest iPhone, you can't do without it. Consumerism, individualism. Individualism means that, I am the center of the universe. And all of them: extravagance, wastefulness, instant gratification, jealousy, selfishness, backbiting, self-righteousness. I was just talking with Brother Devji. Self-righteousness is a very fatal spiritual disease, to regard oneself as somehow spiritually superior than others, having the right to judge others, having a license to claim who is going to paradise and who is going to hellfire. It's almost becoming God, right? To be able to assign who is going. Self-righteousness and self-arrogance is also some of the very important spiritual diseases that we work on. Now, if that is the if that is the main function of this month of fasting, like the Quran says, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, then if you fail to attain some of these objectives, then we have some of traditions that say that the fast is of no value, it's void. Even though we have been fasting, we have been trying to abstain from food and drink and so and so, but some of the hadith literature tells us that it will not be acceptable to God. For example, Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam says, in one of the hadiths, he says, "Kam min sa'imin laysa lahu min siyamihi illa dhama." There are many who fast, but they attain nothing out of fasting except hunger and thirst. وَكَم مِّن قَائِمٍ لَيْسَ لَهُ مِنْ قِيَامِهِ إِلَّا الْعَنَاءُ. And there are many who stay awake at night in prayers, but they attain nothing except for fatigue, exhaustion, and tiredness. حَبَّذَا نَوْمُ الْأَقْيَاسِ وَإِفْطَارُهُمْ. The sleep of a person who is wise and the eating of a person who is wise and God conscious is far superior, says Imam Ali, than the one, of course, mustahab fast we are talking about, recommended fast, is far superior than the fast and the staying awake at night in adoration of God. So you can see the superiority of trying to cleanse and purge some of our spiritual diseases. Salawat. So this is a month of muhasaba. Muhasaba means self-evaluation, right? Self-critique, and to be very honest about it, not to be, so biased, to be objective and trying to analyze ourselves as to what things that we do are good and we should be proud of, and what things that we do require some work and require some kind of polishing of the heart. The best thing is every night we have an opportunity, before we go to bed, we can take an enumeration, accounting of our report card for the day, look at things that we have done which are good and positive, and we can pat ourselves in the back. And then, of course, there are things that we need to improve upon. We have weaknesses, we have deficiencies, and this requires moral courage. But if we engage in this muhasaba, self-evaluation, it can lead to some very positive outcome. Why do I say this? There is a hadith of the Prophet who says, "Man istawa yawmahu fahuwa maghboon." The Prophet says, any person whose 2 days are identical, his today and yesterday are the same, he or she is a loser, because you have lost the capital of time. If I haven't improved myself spiritually, morally, ethically from yesterday, it could be a small improvement, but there has to be some kind of incremental improvement. If there is no improvement, the Prophet is saying we are losers in the sense that we have lost the capital of time, which is going to get exhausted. Nobody lives forever. Even with the advancement of science and technology, the life is still limited, and therefore the capital has to be maximized. And the Prophet said a person whose today is worse than yesterday, well, of course, that is quite disastrous, because now you are going even backwards. You're actually regressing rather than moving forward. So it's far better to be on the same parity rather than to go into regression. So the hadith is telling us that we need to do this self-reflection every day. Otherwise, we cannot improve on a daily basis for our spirituality. Salawat. And the focus ought to remain on ourselves. How can I improve myself? Don't worry too much about others. You know, we have a tendency to dig out the faults of others, to go into a mission, to excavate the weaknesses of others, and we try to somehow magnify them. And in the process, we are trying to claim that I'm superior, I'm self-righteous. That's spiritual arrogance. We say in the name of Amr bil Ma'ruf. Amr bil Ma'ruf has many, many conditions. Amr bil Ma'ruf does not mean that you have a right to humiliate the other person. It has some very, very strict guidelines. Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahy anil Munkar means that before I tell you and give you advice, I must be practicing what I preach, otherwise that cannot be. It is part of my self-centeredness and arrogance to go around looking at the faults of others under a magnifying scope, but I forget myself. And this is the meaning of self-righteousness, self-arrogance, is to go around pointing fingers at others. We need to focus, and the month of Ramadan says, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, focus on yourself. We need to focus on ourselves. Imam Ali in Nahj al-Balagha, he says, مَنْ نَظَرَ فِي عَيْبِ نَفْسِهِ اشْتَغَلَ عَنْ عَيْبِ غَيْرِهِ. A person who focuses on his own faults, his own mistakes and weaknesses, will be so preoccupied, he will not have an opportunity or the time to look at the faults of others. Because we have many, many problems ourselves. Rather than focusing on others, if I focus on myself, Imam Ali says, I won't have any time. No time will be left for me to go around looking around at the faults of others. So we need to focus on self-improvement. Salawat. Look at this beautiful Quranic verse in chapter 59, verse 18, where again God is reminding us, focus on the self. Focus on spiritual improvement, purging the spiritual diseases on ourselves. It says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu taqullah, O you who believe, be mindful of God, be God aware. If we know that God is present amongst us, we'll be very careful not to make mistakes. If we have a sense of God's presence all the time, of course, we'll commit fewer sins. So, ittaqullah, be God aware. وَلْتَنْظُرْ نَفْسٌ مَا قَدَّمَتْ لِغَدٍ. And look inwardly, look inside yourself. What have I sent for my tomorrow? مَا قَدَّمَتْ لِغَدٍ. Meaning to say for the day of akhirah, for the day of judgment. What kind of assets and capital I have sent for myself for ghadan, for tomorrow. Myself, it's not about others. God is saying, look inwardly, within yourself, and ask yourself, am I improving for tomorrow? Am I able to give an account on the day of judgment? It's talking about individual accountability, not trying to somehow advise others and guide others and preach to others, rather preach to our own selves. Salawat. And then interestingly, God says again, wattaqullah. He says twice. In this one verse, he says, be mindful of God. Be God aware that God is present all the time. A sense of God consciousness, His presence. He says, wattaqullah, inna allaha khabirun bima ta'amalun. God is aware of all that you do. Once again, the focus is individual transformation, not to focus on the faults of others. And let me share with you a story that Rumi gives us in Masnavi, which is related to my theme. On one occasion, the story goes, Rumi likes to make stories and then he gives you the moral at the end. Rumi says that Nabi Isa was leaving a village and one person says, I want to follow you, I want to accompany you. And Nabi Isa says, that's fine, you can come along with me. They go along the path and lo and behold, this companion of Nabi Isa, he finds a few bones of skeleton lying in a ditch. And he begins to wonder, who did this belong to? He asked Nabi Isa that you are the great prophet. You are able to give life to the dead. Show me how I can resurrect these dead bones. I'm curious to know who this was. Teach me the formula of Ism Azam so that I can be of some use and I can celebrate that I have done something. Nabi Isa ignores him. He is persistent. He says, no, please teach me the formula that I must say so that this particular bones will be resurrected and revived. Nabi Isa says, it is not the matter of the words. It is not because I have somehow memorized a few words that I am able to revive the dead back to life. It has to do with the purity of the self. It has to do with the purity of my soul. The training and conditioning of my soul, which takes ages. It is not something you can just say, teach me, and then I'll be able to revive the bones. It is not a simple matter. So then the person says, okay, if I am not qualified to revive these dead bones, why don't you do it? Again, Nabi Isa is not prepared to just play this as a game. And he makes a very important statement, which is the punchline. It says, Morde khud ra raha kardast ou, morde bigane ra juyad rufu. This person is forgetting the decayed soul of himself, the one who is saying, revive the bones. He is forgetting his own dead soul, says Rumi. Instead, he is focusing on reviving the dead bones of a stranger. Rumi is saying, focus on yourself. Why are you so curious to know about who this skeleton belongs to? That's not the focus of life. Focus on your soul. And spiritually, what Nabi Isa is saying is that that person is spiritually dead. Morde khudra, it says. Morde khudra raha kardastu. He has forgotten his own dead soul. And he's so much concerned about the spirituality and the soul of others. This is the message that Rumi gives. And Rumi gives in Masnavi many stories. And the stories are, of course, made up. But the story always has a moral at the end. Salawat. One of the other spiritual diseases that is very fatal and very dangerous is this one. It's known as Ashirkul Khafi. It means polytheism, but a hidden kind of polytheism, concealed polytheism. The Prophet says, Inna akhwafa ma akhafu alaykum ashirkul asghar. The Prophet tells his companions that after my departure, I'm very worried about you. The most thing I'm worried about you is ashirkul asghar. That kind of polytheism which is hidden, which is concealed. It's not like you'll be worshipping idols. It will not be so evident. It is going to be hidden. So the people ask him, Wama shirkul asghar, O Prophet, what is this hidden shirk, hidden polytheism? The Prophet says, Ar-Riya. Ar-Riya. Trying to exhibit yourself, trying to display yourself that I'm very pious. I'm more pious than you. I'm more righteous than you. I'm more holy than you. I pray more than you. I do more fast than you. I give more zakat than you. I pray namaz at tahajjud. I go around bragging about my good deeds. Ar-Riya. We are doing things for public display. Public demonstration is not for the sake of God. The intention right now is not for God. The intention is because I want to impress you that I'm a very spiritual human being. I'm a very pious human being. I'm a very righteous human being. Well, then the intention is now corrupted. Is it the intention for the sake of God, or the intention is for public display and public adoration? Public should talk about me. So-and-so is so pious. Have you seen how he prays his long prayers and he recites long surahs and, right? This is another disease, and the Prophet is reminding us this is part of polytheism. Why? Because you're associating somebody with God now. You're associating the pleasure of God with the pleasure of human beings. You're concerned about human beings' reaction to you. You are not concerned anymore about just God. The hadith goes further. He says, Al-Qiyamah, إِذَا جُزِيَ النَّاسُ بِأَعْمَالِهِمْ اذهبوا إلى الذين كنتم تراعون في الدنيا فانظروا هل تجدون عندهم جزاء. On the day of judgment, says the Prophet, when he will be handing out the rewards for those who did good deeds, he says, اذهبوا, go. The Prophet says, go to those people whom you were trying to impress, تراعون. Go and ask for your reward from those people whom you were trying to display as being so pious. هل تجدون عندهم جزاء? Do you think they will have reward for you? It's a question mark. It's a rhetorical question. Is that if you do for others, God is saying then the intention is now corrupted, is polluted, and therefore it becomes part and parcel of polytheism. Salawat. We are also commemorating the birthday of our second Imam, Imam Hasan alayhi salatu afdalus salam. Imam Hasan went through some very difficult period in his life, especially after the death of his father. Many of the companions around him had begun to abandon him because they were bought off by Muawiyah, through bribery, through intimidation, even through killing, through murder, through promises that if you come to me, then I will give you so-and-so. This was a common tactic and strategy. Historians of that time have not been faithful to Imam Hasan. They have not been accurate in recording the history of Imam Hasan's time and Muawiyah's time, because it was sponsored by the Umayyad dynasty. It was paid for and sponsored by the Umayyad dynasty. They used to say, for example, that if you can bring a hadith in praise of the Umayyads, we'll give you a prize. And if you bring, a hadith that talks down upon the Ahlul Bayt, we'll give you a prize. So there was a lot of fabrication of the hadith. Lot of manufacturing of the hadith because people were concerned about filling their pockets. And there was a lot of fear. Muawiyah was a person who had no limits, no qualms in terms of killing. Hujr ibn Adi, if you remember. He had no qualms at all in bribing, in intimidating. And therefore there was also the sense of fear in the community, and historians have not been, as I said, faithful to Imam Hasan alayhi salatu afdalus salam. Salawat. You have to be very careful when you read historical accounts. You have to ask who is writing. What is his motivation? Who is sponsoring this project? Why is he writing this? Is he really a neutral observer who is recording the historical accounts of what has transpired, or does he have an agenda? Likewise for the hadith, you need to ask who is relating this hadith. You will find many of the historians were paid off by the Umayyad dynasty, and therefore the accounts that we have about Imam Hasan is full of falsification. Lots of lies. And it should not come as a surprise to you Even today, for example, Saudi Arabia has sponsored a series of program on Muawiyah, having spent $100 million to try to revise and distort history. Imagine even today you can do it. What about the time of Muawiyah in the 7th century, in the 8th century? Even today they are distorting history. If you look at some of the episodes, you will see that they are playing with history. They are trying to rehabilitate Muawiyah and somehow make him into a very good companion. They have an agenda. Having spent lots of money, this 100 million could have been spent in Gaza, could have been spent in the project of a Zahra Trust, for example, right? The money could have been spent so wisely and so fruitfully. But what they are trying to do, as I said, they are trying to revise and distort history. If you are a good scholar, you should look at some of the earlier manuscripts of the works that are printed. Some of the controversial works, you will find that they have been revised and deleted. So if you look at the earlier manuscript of a particular work, and then you look at the revised and the new edition, you will see that they have removed certain parts of historical account that were against so and so and so and so, any of the companions. They are trying to revise history and trying to, like I said, remove and cleanse and purge things that are part of even the history. At-Tabari, for example, I can show you examples of At-Tabari's history, which has been revised and distorted in the new edition. If you look at the earlier manuscripts available in Iran, in Iraq, and so on, you will find that there is a difference. And that difference is because, as I said, human being is trying to distort and revise history. Salawat. It should come as no surprise to you that A'udhu Billah, Imam Ali was cursed in prayers, every prayer for 60 years. Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib. Can you imagine the historical account of that era? When people think that your namaz is incomplete if you don't curse him. You must curse him in the qunut. This was the propaganda of Muawiyah, the Umayyads. Remember, Muawiyah was in power when Imam Hasan came for already 20 years. He was appointed by Umar. So already he had full control over the Syrians. He had brainwashed them. That somehow the Syrians, some of them didn't know how to give zakat and how to pray. They had to ask people of Medina to come and teach them. So Syria, Muawiyah had full control over them. They didn't know who is Ahlul Bayt. And therefore they could easily, say bad things about Imam Ali in every prayer. Imagine the situation, the context, the environment. Do you think that a historian can write proper history in that era? Not possible. You will lose your life. And that's why Imam Hasan's account, in most of the historical account, are really falsification and inaccurate. On the day of Arafat, they had made up a hadith that it is mustahab to send la'an upon Imam Ali on the day of Arafat for thawab. This was the situation of our community. In a matter of few years, the Muslim community had descended to the depth of depravity. And then, of course, we have then Karbala and so on. What I'm saying is, the Muslim community digressed at a very exponential rate, very fast, very rapid. And then we have kingship under Muawiyah. And therefore, you can see that it is no surprise that all these things were happening. It is shocking to us right now to say, well, how is it possible? Imam Ali, the one who was the closest companion to the Holy Prophet, who grew up in the Prophet's house, who married his daughter. He was there with the Prophet in all places, in all crises. How is it possible that such a noble companion can be cursed. This is the distortion of history, brainwashing the community to believe through bribery, intimidation, and through killing. Salawat. I give you one more example of what I mean by distortion of history. Until the time of Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, they used to slander Imam Ali. And they used to think there's a spiritual reward in it. I mean, today, for example, one of the criticisms of the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah is that, how come some of the Shia, you send la'an upon so-and-so and so-and-so? Well, you were giving la'an. Muawiyah was giving la'an in every prayer. Was that not wrong as well? It was absolutely atrocious, a disgrace. Right? Well, I'm not encouraging people to do la'an on so-and-so and so-and-so because it only creates hatred. It only creates ill will and hostility. And then you see bloodshed, people being killed. Our job should be like Imam Ali, who was so persistent in trying to create reconciliation and harmony and peace and coexistence. Salawat. You must be aware of Sahih Bukhari, one of the famous collections of Sunni hadith that they regard to be one of the most authentic. Bukhari goes on a mission for a number of years, traveling to different places in the Muslim empire, trying to gather hadiths from wherever he could find. Because he wanted to compile the words of the Prophet before they are lost. He had gathered through his technique 600,000 hadith altogether. After all his effort, all his mission of traveling from here and there, and many, many years of hard work. From these 600,000, he only accepted 7,500. Less than 1.5%. From 600,000 hadiths that he had gathered carefully, trying to filter out those that were made up and fabricated, even within those hadiths he found so much falsehood, so much fabrication. He only accepted 7,000, let's say 300 hadith. And some of them are repetitive hadith. If you take out the repetitive hadiths, it's maybe only about 3,000 hadiths. Imagine 600,000 hadith, and then you shrink it down to 7,000. Imagine the level of fabrication going on of the hadith because of bribery. Therefore, when you are a scholar, you need to examine the hadith very carefully. You have to scrutinize the hadith very carefully. You can't accept everything that comes out that, this is the hadith of the... I'm telling you, less than 1.5% was accepted by Bukhari. The other 98% he trashed away. And even in this 2%, I can find for you many contradictions in Sahih Bukhari. Even after all this filtration, the existing Sahih Bukhari has many contradictions like any other hadith collection. Our Shia works are no exception. We also have contradictions in our hadith collection. It's very clear. In that era, hadith was being made up on a massive scale. And therefore, you have to be extremely careful and scrutinize the hadith and make sure that the word that we are ascribing to the Prophet or the Imam truly belongs to the Prophet and the Imam. Salawat. I will pause here. I don't want to, come in between you and this very nice and, delicious, I saw iftar menu that's going to be served, so I don't want you to be unhappy either. So therefore, let's conclude here with du'as, and inshallah, may God accept our amal. Let us pray. Lord of healing and comfort, We implore you to restore full health to all those who are sick. Ya Allah, you are a God of justice. You care for those who are oppressed. We know that you love those who are poor. We know that you love those who are suffering. Show us your power of intervention and restore justice in this violent world, especially in the Gaza and West Bank. A lot of suffering, a lot of human suffering. Incredible, genocidal. Protect us from hopelessness and despair in the face of injustice, oppression, and suffering. Infuse in us the capacity to love each other. Infuse in us the capacity to forgive each other. Infuse in us the discernment to know right from wrong. Endow us with clarity of mission in life. What is supposed to be our mission? Sometimes it is very confusing. What am I supposed to be doing? Should I be spending all my time in the academy? Should I be, I'm talking about myself. Should I be with the community as well? What should I? Show us clarity in what is our purpose in life, our mission in life. Give us tawfiq to follow in the footsteps of the immaculate saints, the ma'asumeen, such that we are prepared to receive the Imam of the time. Make us grateful for all your blessings. Ya Allah, increase our faith and trust in no one else except you. On the day of judgment, hold us to account on the basis of your grace and mercy, not on the basis of your justice. We cannot tolerate the justice of God. We will need His grace and mercy and love and compassion. Ya Allah, accept our ibadat in this holy month. Rabbana taqabbal minna, innaka anta as-sami'ul alim. Salawat.
محمد وآل محمد इमाम हसन आज पैदा हुए शहे ज़ुल्मिनन आज पैदा हुए इमाम हसन आज पैदा हुए शहे ज़ुल्मिनन आज पे ज़माना मसरत से आमूर है कि शाह ज़मन आज पैदा हुए इमाम हसन आज पैदा हुए शहे ज़ुल्मिनन आज फिदा जिस पे हल बुलबुलाने चमन वो रस के चमन आज पैदा हुए इमाम हसन आज पैदा हुए ज़ुल्मिनन आज जिसे सब्ज़ पोशाक हो की अता है वो सब्ज़ तन आज पैदा हुए इमाम हसन आज पैदा हुए शहे ज़ुल्मिनन आज पे अफ़ज़लुस्सलाम मुहम्मद व आल मुहम्मद
Brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum. On behalf of the entire community, we'd like to extend our heartiest congratulations on this celebration of the birth of our second Imam, Imam Hasan alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala. May Allah give us the opportunity to do the ziyarah, inshallah, Imam Hasan, inshallah. I'd also like to thank Dr. Hamid Mavani, as always. Dr. Hamid, your lecture and your speech is always great and always leaves us with practical messages, inshallah. Continue to see you more and more often, inshallah. And with your family next time, inshallah. So, I'd like to, as you know, we have recited Surah Yasin. Let's remember those members from our community that were with us in prior Ramadans, that we celebrate these events with them today. But specifically, let's remember the following marhumin. Meher Dosal, Akbar Dosal, marhum Amina Ali Khaku, Muhammad Jafar Ali Khaku, Badr Chinoy, Mahmoud Chinoy, Sarwat Siddiqui, Riaz Siddiqui, Anis Muhammad Khan, Karimun Nisa Begum, Azmat Sultana, Riaz Ali Sayed, Layla Akbar Jafar, and Mahin Nirumand, as well as the marhumin from all of our families. Let's remember them with the Surah Al-Mubarakat Al-Fatiha. Inshallah, we have just a few more minutes before we have Adhan and Iftar. As a reminder, we have a bake sale that members of our community have baked and contributed. And so during Iftar and after Iftar, there will be a bake sale with a table that's out there in the parking lot. If everybody can visit and contribute to the sale that our young people and our folks have been a part of, that will be great. You saw earlier today we had members from the Zahra Foundation, the Zahra Trust here, who do great work all over the world. We also have our friends from the Al-Ain Foundation. Al-Ain also does great work to support the orphans and needy all over the world as well. So please do stop by at their tables to see them. As a reminder, after Iftar, we will come back in for Dua Iftitah. So please do stay. We'll have Dua Iftitah together. It will aim, inshallah, that we start Dua Iftitah no later than 8:30, inshallah. So please do join. If we are able to start a little bit sooner, we will, but 8:30 is what we're aiming for. Immediately after Dua Iftitah, we will have our annual general meeting. So we ask if you can stay and have the meeting that we've talked about and announced. We'd really appreciate contribution from the whole community, inshallah. Let's end the program with a loud salawat, and if anybody needs to get ready for namaz, we'll have adhan in 3 minutes, inshallah. Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.